sort your daughter out, threatening to kill yourself.
Wow.
That is the text message Renae Marsden received on her phone on the afternoon of August 5, 2013. It came from her daughter's boyfriend, a man named Brayden Spiteri.
It's just an incredibly cruel message, isn't it? It's so cold, it's dismissive, and it's really designed to shift all of the responsibility, all of that burden onto the mother at the very moment her daughter was in crisis.
Absolutely. It's the kind of message that would just, stop a parent's heart.
Mm.
But here's where the story takes a turn from, say, a domestic dispute into something much, much darker.
Mm.
Because the man who sent that text, this Brayden Spiteri,
yeah,
he didn't exist. He wasn't real.
And that's the core of it. He wasn't real, and yet, as we're going to see, the impact he had was about as real as it gets. He was the catalyst for a tragedy that, well, it destroyed a family, and it really exposed this massive blind spot in our legal system for handling digital abuse.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We are tackling a case today that is, frankly, it's infuriating, it's heartbreaking, and it is just so psychologically complex.
Mm.
We're looking at the case of Renae Marsden, a 20-year-old woman from Sydney, Australia.
And, this case is from 2013, but I think it's probably more relevant now than it ever has been. We live so much of our lives online. Our relationships are increasingly digital.
Right.
And this case really forces you to ask that question. At what point does a lie, an online lie, become a weapon?
It's a huge question, and we have a lot of material to get through today. We're not just, skimming the headlines. We are looking at the official NSW coroner's findings from 2020. Which is a very dense but incredibly revealing document.
Mm-hmm.
We've also gone through the transcripts from the case file coverage, which is excellent. We've looked at the Reddit threads where, honestly, people have really dug into the timeline and the details. And on top of that, we've got some legal analysis regarding what's now being called Renae's Law.
And we're going to try and pair all of that with some psychological frameworks, because we have to talk about the dark tetrad of personality traits. The word catfishing just feels too light for what happened here.
It does. It really does.
Catfishing implies a nuisance, maybe a financial scam. This was psychological warfare.
That's the mission for this deep dive, then. We want to move beyond just the true crime story and really look at the mechanics of control. How does a bubbly, family-oriented young woman fall for a prison inmate she has never, ever met?
And then the even bigger question. Why, when the whole thing comes crashing down, does the legal system basically just throw its hands up and say there's nothing we can do?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Mm.
It's that huge gap between what feels like moral justice and what is actually legal justice.
Mm.
So let's start with the victim. Let's start with Renae Marsden. Because reading through those Inquest files, you get such a clear picture of who she was. She wasn't like an isolated loner or anything like that. She was vibrant.
She really was. All the sources describe her as having this just an infectious energy. She was 20 years old, working in insurance, loved to dance. But the one thing that comes up again and again is her connection to her family.
Right.
Her personal motto was literally, family comes first.
And I loved that detail about the tattoo she had.
Oh, yeah.
Life is beautiful because of you. It was inked on her rib cage, and it was specifically for her mom, Teresa.
That tells you everything, doesn't it? It shows the kind of support system she had. She wasn't estranged from them. She was deeply, deeply loved.
She was. But we do have to acknowledge the vulnerabilities that were mentioned in the coroner's report.
Right. It's not a simple picture.
No. Renae had a history of depression. She had struggled with bullying in the past, and she was described as someone who felt emotions very, very intensely, both the highs and, the lows.
Which can be a beautiful quality, of course, but it can also make you a target for a very specific kind of predator.
And that brings us to Camila Zidan.
The best friend.
And I'm using that term very loosely, because when you look at the witness statements about their relationship, going all the way back to year 9 in high school, it doesn't really look like a friendship to me.
No.
It looks more like ownership.
That's the perfect word for it. Ownership.
Mm.
The dynamic was incredibly toxic. The sources detail not just emotional manipulation, but actual physical violence. There were reports of Camila punching Renae, pulling her hair.
And there was that terrifying incident in the car. I want to zoom in on that for a second because it just sets the stage for everything.
Yeah, that story is chilling.
So Renae is driving, Camila's in the passenger seat, and they get into an argument. And Camila literally reaches over and rips the steering wheel out of Renae's hands.
While the car is moving.
While the car's moving.
It's just It's so incredibly dangerous. It shows this complete and utter lack of regard for Renee's safety, for her life. But what's even more telling is what happened afterwards.
She forgave her.
She forgave her, and that's the cycle, isn't it? You have the abuse, then you have the apology, and then the slow normalization of what is completely unacceptable behavior.
It just conditions the victim to accept more and more.
Exactly. And on Camila's side, this was all being driven by this suffocating obsession. She sent emails to Renae that were really explicit about it. One of them, and this is a direct quote, said, "Only I'll own you."
Only I'll own you. I mean, that is just a colossal red flag. And the sources are pretty clear that this wasn't just a platonic thing for Camila, right? She wanted more.
Oh, the evidence is overwhelming on that point. Camila had romantic feelings for Renae. She had tried to kiss her. She wrote her love letters. But Renae was heterosexual. She consistently rejected those advances.
So she loved Camila's friend, but she drew a clear line at romance.
A very clear line. And that rejection seems to be the pivot point for this entire tragedy. Because if Camila couldn't have Renae romantically as Camila, she was going to find another way to possess her.
And she did that by isolating her.
It's the first step in the abuser's playbook. You have to cut them off from their support system. Whenever Renae got a boyfriend, like her real-life boyfriend, a guy named Angus Camila would sabotage the relationship.
What would she do?
She'd create drama, she'd whisper things in Renae's ear, she would physically insert herself between them. She just could not stand sharing Renae with anyone else.
So, in late 2011, her strategy changes. Camila introduces Renae to Brayden Spiteri. And the setup here is so elaborate, it's almost cinematic.
It really is. Camila comes to Renae and says, "Look, I have the perfect guy for you. He's actually my ex-boyfriend, but we didn't work out. I think you two would be great together."
Which is, in a really twisted way, it's genius.
It is.
Because by presenting him as an ex-boyfriend, Camila immediately validates his existence. She's not just saying, "I know a guy." She's saying, "I dated this guy."
It gives him a history.
Right. It anchors him in reality. And it also positions Camila as this benevolent, wonderful friend. Look at me, I'm sacrificing my own feelings so that you can be happy. It just makes Renae trust her even more. But of course, there's a catch. Brayden isn't exactly available for a coffee date.
Not at all. Brayden, she says, is currently an inmate at Goulburn Jail.
A maximum security prison.
He was supposedly serving time for manslaughter. The story was it involved a motorcycle accident that killed his best friend.
I want to unpack this whole jail boyfriend trope for a minute. Because on the surface, you'd think, why would a 19-year-old girl want to date a guy in prison? But psychologically, it's the perfect cover for a catfish.
It solves all the logistical problems, doesn't it? If you're pretending to be a regular guy, eventually the other person expects to meet you. Let's grab dinner, or come to my birthday party. You have to constantly invent excuses.
My car broke down. I'm sick again. Yeah, that would wear thin pretty fast.
Exactly. But if the person you're pretending to be is in jail...
The excuse is built in. He can't come to dinner. He can't meet your parents.
And it adds this layer of sort of romantic tragedy to it. He's the bad boy with a heart of gold stuck in a cage, and only you, only Renae, can understand him.
And they really doubled down on the restrictions, didn't they? It wasn't just that he was in jail. There was the excuse about visitation rights.
That was the story. He told Renae, "Look, I'm not letting anyone visit me because if I waive my visitation rights, I can get a reduced sentence. And then I can get out sooner to be with you."
It's so manipulative, it basically weaponizes her love against her. If she pushes to see him, she's actually delaying their future together.
And it completely cut off the possibility of her just showing up at the prison one day and asking to see him.
But what about phone calls? I mean, surely at some point she wanted to actually hear his voice.
The excuse there was that he had a smuggled phone. He claimed his lawyer had snuck a phone into his cell for him so he could text her, but he couldn't actually talk on it because the guards might hear him and he'd get in big trouble.
And who was the go-between for everything?
Always Camila. She was the gatekeeper. If Renae wanted to send Brayden a gift, she gave it to Camila. If she wanted to send him a replacement phone, which she did at one point, she gave it to Camila, who would then give it to the lawyer.
So Camila controlled every single point of contact.
Every single one.
Okay, let's talk about the persona of Brayden himself. He wasn't just, some text on a screen. He had a face.
Yes. They used photos of a real man named Cameron Lang.
And looking at the photos that are available, the source material, you can see the appeal. He's young, handsome, muscular. The whole backstory was that he was from a wealthy family, went to a prominent private school. He was the total package.
And it's so important to state, For the record, Cameron Lang had absolutely no idea this was happening. He was just a guy living his life while his face was being used to manipulate this woman for 2 years.
The intensity of the communication is what really blows my mind. The data analysis from the police investigation showed that between March and June of 2013 alone, that's just a 3-month window, there were over 11,000 text messages exchanged between them.
That is, what, roughly 120 messages a day? Every single day. That isn't just a relationship, that's an occupation. Her entire life revolved around that phone.
It becomes a digital reality, doesn't it? It completely supplants her real life. And when you look at the actual content of those messages, it wasn't all just love hearts and romance. It was abusive.
It mirrored the same kind of abuse she was getting from Camila in real life. Brayden was incredibly jealous. He was controlling. He claimed to have installed tracking software on her phone.
So he'd text her things like, I see you're at the gym. Who are you looking at? Or he'd demand she stop talking to male colleagues at her job.
It's that classic intermittent reinforcement trap. He'd abuse her, making her feel small and insecure. Then he'd follow it up with love bombing. I'm sorry, baby. I'm just so crazy about you. I can't wait to marry you. It keeps her completely off balance.
And she was so committed. She got a tattoo of his name, Brayden Spiteri, right on her chest.
She was planning their wedding. She'd made inquiries with the photographer. She was all in.
And she actually ended a real engagement for him, right?
She did. She was seeing a man named Ian in real life. A nice guy, by all accounts. A stable, real person. But Brayden demanded she end it. He couldn't handle the competition.
And she did it. She chose the fantasy over the reality.
And that's the real power of idealization, isn't it? Ian was a real human being. He probably had bad days. Maybe he was boring sometimes. Brayden, on the other hand, was a projection. He could be whatever she needed him to be in that moment.
Because she couldn't see him, her mind just filled in all the gaps with perfection.
And the sunk cost fallacy is huge here, too. By this point, she had invested 2 years of her life, thousands of messages, money for gifts, her emotional stability. Walking away would mean admitting that all of that was for nothing.
Yeah.
And that's a very hard thing for anyone to do.
Okay, let's move to the timeline of the tragedy. It's the middle of 2013, and things are starting to shift.
Right. In June and July, Camila goes to the United States for a trip, and miraculously, Brayden goes completely silent at the exact same time.
And the story for that was, what, he had a parole hearing coming up and lost his phone privileges?
That was the excuse, yes. So for a whole month, Renae is in this communication void. She's writing these heartbreaking love letters to him in the Notes app on her phone, just waiting for him to come back online.
And then when Camila returns, the dynamic between the two of them, the two women, it changes. Renae tries to set a boundary.
The friendship had just become too volatile. There was an incident at a soccer game where Renae refused to watch Camila play, and it was kind of the last straw for her. She decided she was done with Camila's abuse.
But she wanted to stay with Brayden.
Yes. She wanted to cut off Camila but keep the relationship with Brayden. And for Camila, that is the absolute nightmare scenario. She created Brayden to bind Renae to her. If Renae takes Brayden and leaves Camila behind, the entire scheme backfires.
She realizes she's losing control.
Exactly. And the coroner suggested that if Camila couldn't control Renae anymore, she was going to destroy her.
Which brings us to August 5, 2013. This is the day that everything just completely unraveled.
Brayden finally texts back after that month of silence. Renae is at work. She's probably incredibly relieved. But he's cold. He's distant. And then around midday, he just drops the hammer. He texts, I think I need a break, and so do you.
After 2 years. After the tattoo. After all the wedding plans. Just a text message saying, I need a break.
It absolutely crushed her. She's at her desk at work, visibly shaking, crying. She has to leave early. And then she does something she had never done before in this entire 2-year saga. She calls Goulburn jail.
I want to just slow down right here. Because I think this is the most pivotal 90 seconds in the entire story. Let's just try to reconstruct this moment. Renae's likely in her car, or maybe just standing outside her workplace. She's desperate. She's been told for 2 years that her fiancé is in this prison. So she dials the number for the Goulburn Correctional Center.
Imagine the state of mind she's in. She is just looking for answers. She's probably thinking, if I can just talk to him or even just find out what's happening with his parole, I can fix this.
So the call connects. A receptionist picks up. We don't have the recording, of course, but we know the protocol. She would have said something like, hi, I need to speak to or get information about inmate Brayden Spiteri.
And the receptionist on the other end types that name into the database, Spiteri.
And the cursor just blinks. No results found.
The receptionist probably asked her to spell it again, Maybe checked for aliases, checked recent transfers, nothing.
I'm sorry, ma'am. We have no inmate by that name.
That moment, it is a total collapse of reality. It's not just that her boyfriend broke up with her, it's that he's a ghost. And if he's not in jail, where is he? And if he's not real, then the person she trusted most in the world, the person who introduced them, the one who passed along the gifts,
Camila?
has been lying to her every single day for 2 years.
She hangs up the phone. She goes home, completely distraught.
And meanwhile, Camila, acting as Brayden, is just twisting the knife. She sends that text to Renee's mom, Teresa. Sort your daughter out. Threatening to kill herself.
So Teresa confronts Renae at home. She's trying to calm her down, but Renae is she's past the point of being consoled. And she says to her mom, "Don't be stupid, Mom. I finally found out what he's all about. It's over."
I finally found out what he's all about. To me, that confirms it. She knew. In that moment, she knew the depth of the deception. Her entire reality had just shattered.
She tells her mom she's going out to dinner to clear her head. She gets in her car. But she doesn't go to dinner. She drives to the Gap in Watson's Bay.
And for any listeners outside of Australia, the Gap is a beautiful, but it's a notorious sheer cliff face overlooking the ocean. It's a place that people go to when they've run out of all other hope.
She parks the car, and she sends a series of final text messages.
She texts Camila, "I love you and I am sorry."
That message is just so complicated, isn't it? I love you and I am sorry. Is she forgiving her? Is she apologizing for what she's about to do?
It's so ambiguous. Some people see it as this final act of grace. Others see it as the tragic conditioning of an abuse victim apologizing to her abuser right at the very end.
She also texts her mom a loving goodbye. "I love you, Mama."
And she texts Brayden.
We don't know what those messages said.
No, they were deleted or lost in the cloud somewhere. But after sending them, she threw her phone off the cliff. And then she jumped.
The police find her car later that evening. And there's a detail from this scene that just haunts me. Written in the condensation on the car window, with her finger, were the words, "I love you, Brayden."
It's devastating. Even knowing he wasn't in jail, even knowing it was all a lie, the love that she felt was real to her. She was mourning the death of the man she loved, even though he had never even existed.
They found her shoes, placed neatly by the edge of the cliff.
Her body was never recovered. The currents there are incredibly strong. She was swept out to sea.
So the investigation begins. And initially, the police are just as confused as Renae was.
Of course. They follow the standard missing persons protocol. They look into the boyfriend, so they call Goulburn Jail.
And they get the exact same answer Renae did.
Right. No Brayden Spiteri. They check the state databases, birth records, everything. No record of him anywhere. And very, very quickly, the focus turns to the only person who links all of this together.
Camila.
They interview her on August 25. They confront her. They say, "Look, we know he doesn't exist." And her reaction is just fascinatingly detached. She denies it, but she says, "I know everyone thinks I am Brayden."
Such a strange deflection.
But the pressure keeps building. And on September 23, they execute a search warrant on Camila's home. And this is where you really see that dark tetrad personality we talked about start to show itself.
Because the police are tearing her room apart. They're looking for the phone that links her to his suicide. Most people would be hysterical, crying, panicking.
But not Camila. The sources say she just sat there playing on another device, showing absolutely no stress, no tears, no concern for the best friend who had just died.
She eventually cracks, but only partially. She admits she sent the texts, but then she spins a whole new lie.
She claims, "Renae asked me to do it."
She blames the victim.
It's classic gaslighting. She claimed the whole thing was a game, a mutual role play that they were both in on from the start. She tries to rewrite history to make herself an accomplice rather than a perpetrator.
But technology. Technology has a way of revealing the truth. The police had Renee's old iPhone. It was an iPhone 4 or 4S given the era, but it was locked.
And you have to remember, this is 2013. Digital forensics wasn't what it is today. The police, the official cybercrime unit, struggled for months to crack that passcode. They essentially gave up on it.
And this is one of those moments where truth is just stranger than fiction. The police couldn't do it, but a 13-year-old boy could.
It was Renee's younger brother's friend. He went online, he bought a piece of software for about $100, something like Dr. Phone or a similar brute force tool that was available back then, and he unlocked it.
It really highlights the competency gap in law enforcement at the time when it came to digital evidence, doesn't it? A kid with a laptop outsmarted the detectives.
And thank God he did, because the contents of that phone completely destroyed Camila's story.
What did they find on there?
They found thousands of messages from Renae to her other friends that proved, without a shadow of a doubt, she believed Brayden was real. She was venting to friends about him. She was asking Camila for advice about the jail conditions. She was crying about not being able to visit him.
Right. If she was in on it as part of some game, she wouldn't be privately texting her other friends about how heartbroken she was.
Exactly. The game defense just completely fell apart. And then the data analysis sealed it. They overlaid the timestamps of the messages. Camila and Brayden never, ever texted Renae at the exact same time. When Camila was in the hospital for surgery, Brayden went silent. The patterns were undeniable.
So we have the deception totally exposed. We have her confession that she sent the text. You'd think, okay, case closed, arrest her.
And that is where the Marsden family's nightmare entered its second phase, because there was no arrest.
Why?
Because in New South Wales and in most places around the world, just being a catfish isn't a crime.
Even if it leads directly to someone's death.
Even then, the law is very specific. To prove fraud, you usually need financial gain. To prove stalking, you need a credible fear of physical safety. But creating a fake persona to manipulate someone emotionally, that was just considered a crime of the heart. It wasn't illegal.
So it took 7 years, all the way until 2020, to even get a coroner's inquest. Why such a long delay?
Primarily because the police initially wrote it off as a suicide with no suspicious circumstances. It was only through the relentless campaigning of Teresa and Mark Marsden, Renae's parents, that the Attorney General finally ordered a full inquest.
And when Camila finally took the stand to testify, she had a shield.
She did. She was granted what's called a Section 61 certificate. It's a legal mechanism where a witness can be compelled to give evidence that might incriminate them, but that evidence can't be used against them in any future criminal proceedings.
So she could finally tell the truth without any fear of prosecution.
Theoretically, yes. But she didn't tell the truth. She spun another completely different story.
The lesbian lover's defense.
Yes. She testified under oath that she and Renae were actually secret lovers. She claimed Brayden was a bearded cover story they had concocted together to hide their relationship from their strict religious families.
Wow.
She tried to frame the whole thing as this tragic Romeo and Juliet story where society was the villain, not her.
But the coroner, Elaine Truscott, she saw right through it.
Oh. She absolutely decimated that defense. The coroner's findings were scathing. She called Camila's evidence, and I'm quoting here, disingenuous at best and ultimately nothing but a pack of lies.
A pack of lies.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't often see that kind of direct, powerful language in a formal legal judgment.
No, it's incredibly strong. The coroner found that Renae was not gay. She was not in relationship with Camila. She was a victim of coercive control. And the coroner identified the motive clearly. Camila created Brayden to keep Renae for herself to the exclusion of all others.
Let's deepen the psychological analysis here, because we mentioned the dark tetrad earlier. I really want to go through these 4 traits because Camila seems to just tick every single box.
The dark tetrad consists of narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and the last one is sadism.
Okay, so let's start with narcissism.
That's the grandiosity, the sense of entitlement. Camila truly believed she had the right to own Renae. She made herself the absolute center of Renae's universe. And even in court, her whole demeanor was described as arrogant. She acted like she was smarter than everyone else in the room.
Okay. And Machiavellianism, that's the strategic manipulation part.
Exactly. Look at the sheer complexity of the lie. The prison backstory to avoid meetings. The fake lawyer. The waived visitation excuse. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment lie she told. This was a calculated, complex, long-term strategy to manipulate reality.
And then psychopathy, the lack of empathy.
We saw that during the search warrant. We saw in the way she just watched Renae suffer for 2 years. A neurotypical person seeing their best friend crying day after day over a fake boyfriend they created would eventually feel guilt. They would stop the lie.
Right.
Camila didn't. She lacked that emotional brake pedal that empathy provides.
And then the 4th one. Sadism. This is, I think, the one that is the hardest to stomach.
Sadism is deriving pleasure or enjoyment from the suffering of others. And for this, I point directly to the breakup text and that text to Teresa. Sort your daughter out. That wasn't just practical, it was cruel. She was kicking Renae when she was already down. She seemed to get satisfaction from the power she had to hurt her.
It's terrifying to think that someone with this kind of psychological profile can operate so easily online.
The internet is a playground for the dark tetrad. It removes all the immediate physical consequences. You can be a sadist from the comfort of your own bedroom.
So the coroner delivers her findings. She says, unequivocally, that Camila's actions caused Renae's death. But because of this legal gap, Camila just walks out of that court a free person.
That's the reality. The coroner did recommend that the laws be reviewed to include coercive control, so non-physical domestic violence. But as the law stood at that moment, Camila had broken no laws.
And this has led to the big push for Renae's law.
The Marsden family is fighting tirelessly to make this kind of catfishing a specific criminal offense, but only when it results in severe harm or suicide.
We do have Carly's law in Australia, right? What's the difference?
Yes, which is named after Carly Ryan. But that law specifically targets adults who lie about their age to groom minors for sexual activity. Renae was 20. She was legally an adult. So Carly's law didn't apply to her case.
So the argument for Renae's law is that the age of the victim shouldn't matter as much as the deception and the level of harm caused.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that psychological violence can be just as lethal as physical violence. You know, if I hit you with a car and you die, I go to jail. But if I drive you to suicide through a sophisticated 2-year campaign of psychological torture, I just go home. That's the inconsistency they want to fix.
There is one other victim in all of this that we really need to acknowledge, and that's Cameron Lang, the real face of Brayden.
He found out years after the fact. Can you imagine getting that phone call? Hi, your photos were used in a catfishing case that involved a suicide.
The sources say he was just sickened by it.
He suffered from significant anxiety. He was terrified of being wrongly associated with the death, terrified of vigilantism, but he showed incredible character. He came forward publicly and supported the Marsden family. He stood with them.
He's a victim of identity theft, but in a way that stole his moral reputation, not his money.
A really good way of putting it.
So where does all this leave us? We have a grieving family. We have a legal system that's slowly maybe catching up, but it's not there yet. And we have this digital landscape that is only getting more and more complex.
It leaves us with a warning, really. We tend to trust what we see on our screens. We assume that if someone is talking to us, they're a real person. But this case proves that a person can be a complete fabrication and still have the power to destroy a life.
It also really challenges our whole definition of violence, doesn't it?
It has to. We need to understand that emotional abuse, the gaslighting, the isolation, the control, that is violence. Just because it doesn't leave a visible bruise doesn't mean it isn't lethal.
I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to chew on here. We're moving very quickly into the age of AI. We're moving into the metaverse. We're seeing AI girlfriends and boyfriends being marketed right now, today.
It is the next frontier of this.
If one human being using a few stolen photos and a basic text message app could do this much damage back in 2013, just imagine what a sophisticated AI or a predator using deepfake technology could do in 2030.
The line between what is real and what is fiction is dissolving right in front of us.
And if our laws don't catch up and recognize emotional reality as real right now, we're going to be completely defenseless against the virtual abuse of the future. The Renae Marsden case isn't just a sad story from the past, it's a prelude.
That's a terrifying but very necessary perspective.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It was a heavy one, but a necessary one.
Yeah, take care of yourselves out there and check on your friends.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.